And we are live with
Oh, hey, Glenn, I'm getting the
Martin Parisol.
ask permission from the host to record. So first time I got that window.
Yes, and now you can record as well.
Oh, okay.
Just came up here. So this is part 3 of our deep dive into cultural evolution. And today we were going to look at ideas for how our country could be a good role model for the rest of the world, and how we could imagine this principle think globally and act locally applied to our respective countries. So that's basically the theme we were thinking to kick it off with. And yeah, what are your first thoughts on this, Martin?
This is a follow-up, Glenn, for me. When I kind of took a little bit of a break from my Facebook, I said when I would return, it would be to offer the ideas of a project that would get me back to Canada. And of course, Canada, I don't have any contacts there that would hire me for a project like this or that would even collaborate with me. And I couldn't afford to do this without support with, volunteering or a limited unemployment income. So it's unrealistic unless Canada, ever kind of acknowledges my expertise or my professionalism or my conviction of the heart to want to offer what is appropriate for their culture over there, which has been on the decline for a long time, an evolutionary dead end. And I am incredibly disappointed with that culture in so many ways that makes me, not want to have anything to do with it because it's just heartbreaking. And one of the things that is in the news for Canada right now is a big divide between the people that have I'll call them Greta followers. And they want to keep the fossil fuels in the ground. And then there's the other ones that don't want to lose the truck or want to have the money for the new truck when it comes out, They want to keep having big, and they think, again, almost like the redneckism of United States citizens. They call themselves Americans. It's funny, speaking of Americans, because I wrote in my time capsule contribution that Trump says, make America great again. And I think his country is in North America. So I'm wondering if he is also speaking for Canada and Mexico. And again, I mean, go back in history. When was it ever great, these three countries? I mean, they've never really fully stabilized the proto-civilization. And mine certainly hasn't. And I've traveled quite a bit and done quite a bit of research there. So I'm pretty certain about this. There's too much documentation proving otherwise. I had a smart car in north of Vancouver Island and north communities of Ontario and BC and Quebec, I mean. And the look I get from having a smart car, the third version, and by the way, I don't want to promote Mercedes or BMW or Volkswagen, which are very dishonest companies. And there are alternatives to, especially in Asia, to small cars that are as environmentally friendly, especially in the electric car versions. But I was up there and people look at me like I'm from another planet. One guy, I had BC plates in Ontario. And where are you from anyways? Like where are you? Like, I don't get just, I don't get the looks, the stigma or the bias just from a guy who shaves his head. I get it from, the way I speak, the confidence I have, the vehicle that I drive, and I get this redneckism, which for me, I define as someone who's proud of their own ignorance. And it's growing increasingly in Canada. And it certainly is there in Alberta, where they do not want to give up their lifestyles or they fear change, and they always say things like, oh, we'll be out of work or our kids' family. Well, cultures change all the time. and they evolve, and you need to evolve with it. Otherwise, you're not very developed a country, and you're not very advanced as a primate. So, and it's not that hard to do it. You just got to overcome your intellectual laziness, admit you've been part of the problem, and make your kids proud for the next, decade, and reinvent yourself as a worker and your family as members of your community. So for me, I have some ideas about how to do this. And in the conversation that we're going to have today, I hope to kind of bounce some of them back and forth with you, Glenn. So do you have some ideas about which particular topic you would include for your country when it comes to think globally, act locally?
Yeah. It's obviously it's a relatively small country, Norway at the moment.
What do you mean at the moment? Do you guys have plans to expand that I don't know?
Maybe there's some. Maybe who knows?
And I hope you meant a second bedroom in case somebody's pregnant or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the way I look at it, we have to find out what are the strengths of a culture if we're going to get anywhere. We got to find some strength to build on, at least. That's I don't really believe in any cultural development if we don't have any values or strengths to build on. Some of the values which are relatively well developed over here is about a pretty fair distribution of resources among people, relatively it's not these enormous differences in wealth, for example. You have good welfare systems to take care of the most poor, suffering people. It's almost free healthcare, and these are good systems in the sense that they.
So if you would apply the saying, think globally, act locally, and apply your strengths, and for Norway to be role models to the rest of the world in what is happening in the world, such as mass migrations that are going to continue to increase due to climate change, to political, economic system collapses, and things like that.
Yeah, if we were to apply that, I think that one of the things that's definitely needed is an ecologically sustainable civilization, because still, obviously, a great deal of the economy is dependent on fossil fuels. Norway is no exception. Clearly, it actually has quite a lot of oils being harvested from the different oceans, and so that if that can be taken into ecologically sustainable system for permaculture, basically. This is the principle. It's a permaculture society where you have a maximum degree of each unit is being used again and again, filling many functions, low waste. This is one direction, obviously, just on the physical point of being able to use resources efficiently in the sense of no waste, low impact on the environment, and generally to just have a harmonious flow of resources, one could put it that way. Or resources is a strange concept, but let's say the flow of things and people and events. So this is how I look at it. And then you have yeah, it's just someone's leaving the room. So yeah, now it's a little more quiet here. But anyway, that's one side of the issue. But then you have the social, the psychological side of the issue. You have the ideas, you have the knowledge, you have the worldview, how this develops, you have how the cultural conversation develops. And what is possible now is for us to begin a conversation about how we can expand and build on the things that already work relatively well, and make this into a globally fair system, which can work for 100% of people all over the world, where you have the basics taken care of, basically. But this is, at the moment, it's we're quite far away from it, clearly. However, it begins with this conversation developing, and the ideas developing, and the vision becoming more clarified.
Okay, Glenn, you know, a pattern I've noticed with you and I over the conversations is you want to see it. It's not like you choose the glass is half empty or the glass is half full, is you see it as both full and empty. And for me, that's like a neutral zone where, you know, nothing's happening or nothing deserves judgment, and there's no right and wrong. And but for me, you know, that's kind of not related to evolution that much. It's more stagnation. So if, you know, if I would advise you to do something, or any other country, it would be to stop bragging about their strengths and admit their weaknesses and solve the weaknesses. And it's easy to keep going for the strengths, but if you don't acknowledge your weaknesses and they're pulling down the strengths and they're responsible for the crashes, and you know, like maybe then the countries are not role models at all. So here's some weaknesses in my country. And
why do we want to focus on weaknesses? I don't see why that's necessary.
Well, I think if we stick to this conversation, Glenn, I think it's going to change the flow of our future conversations, and I agree that we should. So explain to me the philosophy behind seeing both good and bad. Like, where's their change? Where's their progress? What are you actually working on, if not for saying, I agree with you, I agree with you, I agree with you, I agree with you. Good meeting, let's go home. So I don't know what happens. Like, where's the progress? Where's the change? Where's the evolution? Where's the reality, really? I mean, it's all about, hey, let's all agree not to disagree. And I don't see how this is better than agreements where the bad guys are winning instead of the good guys. I mean, it's kind of the same outcome of decline. Because if you ignore the socio-cybernetic feedback loops that will create crashes, and you just say that it's a normal thing, then again, you're not taking charge of memetics, and memetics is not just ideas, it's behaviors.
Oh yeah, absolutely, it's behaviors.
So here's my behavior. I said I'd do this, and I did it. And I had to give somebody a foot massage in exchange for her doing this. I wrote the English part. In the French part, j'ai été bien clair qu'il y avait un accent aigu sur le E, là, mais il a été oublié, c'est pas grave. Puis ça, c'est le japonais, puis le chinois, mandarin. Puis, so I said I would do this, and I got it done. And this is something that will stay with me and I'll take care of. It's been classified by the lady that I gave the foot massage to, who did the nice letters and coloring. So this is me creating collaborations, fulfilling a promise with you. This is me saying that, hey, I can do something and get it done, and this is who I am. I've got the conviction of the heart. And I've been reposting this song by Kenny Loggins on my Facebook, Conviction of the Heart. And the lyrics, which aren't always clear in the singing part, you have to look them up sometimes to be sure you know what he's saying, but they're very powerful lyrics. I mean, let's stop with the outdated 10 commandments that sound like they've been written by an angry 6-year-old, and let's follow more accurate and updated wisdom and apply it. But why aren't people applying it? Why do you say you're stagnating comments a lot of the time? Because I would say I have data. I told you I have data that shows how Norway is on the decline when it comes to their paranoia with immigration. So I have the data. I've told you and I've showed it to you. So why aren't you addressing some of the things that would make them role models? Because if role models is a system of consumption and overstructure that is too anthropocentric, then your crash might be looking different than another country, but it's going to happen. It's cultures have to evolve by crashing and changing, and it's not as good as you think it is. And you have to start talking about the bad stuff about Norway, and everybody is so afraid to talk about their own countries, and they'll only do it after they've secured a place in another country. Well, I've talked about how Canada is making the wrong choices as a majority, not just the politicians, but the people every day. And I've said it when I was there. So my sacrifice is I can't get work, is I can't maintain friendships, even with people that I've given a decade to or family members.
Yeah, but that happens with many of those who speak about the bad stuff. And I've noticed that.
So if we all speak about the bad stuff,
but
we still are social
that?
Creatures, Glenn.
Yes, but why should we speak about the bad stuff?
Because the people that avoid talking about the good stuff, the bad stuff, they only talk about more or less the good or their denial topics, they're the majority. And when they're the majority,
they are not. No, you are wrong. You're wrong. That you are totally wrong about, Martin.
Okay, explain.
I go into the newspaper, when I go into the news feed, when I go into the discussion forum, almost all the conversation is about the bad stuff that is not working. This is a fact. And I don't believe it's different in Canada. Is it?
Now, what's the next step? What's the next step? And I'm talking about action here.
Yes, right. That's my question. What's the next step? I don't see one, because they continue complaining about everything that's wrong, and they're blaming somebody else for it. And they blame back. And it just continues and continues and continues, and nothing happens.
What do you know about my life, Glenn? Glenn, what do you know about my life that might make me different than just the guy who complains? Sits on his couch, drinks beer, watches sports, kicks his dog.
There's obviously there's a lot more, and I see that with you. You have lots of ideas about how it could be done totally differently.
No, I'm talking about my actions, my life's choices. What do you know about my life's choices that make me refuse to lend my voice and my power of choice and actions to the problem, to what I want to be free from? Quoting Jewel, my favorite singer, a little bit here.
Yes, you want independence, right? Yes, you want to be independent.
One way to put what I've been doing for the last, we're going on, more than 4 years now, is I've been burning bridges. I've been burning unhealthy bridges. And I feel alone, like I shouldn't feel alone, because nobody else is burning the bridges. Nobody else is disconnecting from the unhealthy way of life. They're clinging to it till the end. And when you talk about it, what part of the social paradigm change are you in? Because if you're part of just the people that are talking about it, we're again a couple of generations too late. We should be, as a majority, applying solutions, applying different ways of thinking, not just talking about imagine this.
Different ways of thinking
should already be in our brain naturally coming.
But if we need different ways of thinking, don't we need to develop those ways of thinking to a high enough level of sophistication that it actually works? That's what I'm working on. And I don't know exactly what the solution is, but I've observed the tendency of groups blaming other groups for problems. I've seen it here in Norway. I've seen it in other places.
Well, there's
And
hypocrisy because if you blame somebody else and you don't role model solutions, then your criticism is pretty much, it
yeah,
doesn't stand for nothing.
and
And
that
why
is
is my voice silenced more than anybody else's voice? It's because I'm living the solution in a lot of ways, and I had to sacrifice a lot for that. And I'm thinking, why am I not meeting more people that have sacrificed as much as I did? And look, I've been traveling, I've been talking about things. So there's a reason to explain why the number of people like me who want to apply the solutions, like not have a car or not have a cell phone, there's a reason why I'm not meeting anybody like this. People want more than one car. Nobody will give up their phone. So, and there's a lot of good reasons to give up cell phones, a lot of good reasons, including the dangers of 5G. So why am I not meeting anybody like this? And why should I give a lot of respect to people that just talk the talk and they don't walk the talk? Because that's where really the sacrifices and the respect should be coming from.
but how can society change if the change agents disconnect? That seems to be a part of the problem. That the
So
change agents, they
if we
feel
if we
isolated.
address one thing at a time, okay, if we address like just giving up cell phones one thing at a time, and we have conversations like, well, what did our grandparents do? Did they have worse quality conversations with their neighbors or their friends because they didn't have cell phones? Did they not find work, or were they not able to get married or whatever, or were they not able to enjoy playing cards with their friends or have parties and socialize? What, like if we address things that people think is an obstacle that isn't even there most of the time, it's just their own sickness up here that is the issue. It's not what to do if I don't have a phone. And if you turn your phone on once every 3 days and call people and return messages and make appointments and show up for your appointment on time and keep track of your schedule like a human being with thinking tools should be able to, then your cell phone should be hardly on. You shouldn't be
Hmm,
hurting yourself with it or
yeah.
wasting your time down here instead of just knowing what having human observations feels like.
So now you're talking about a more intelligent relationship with these technologies, where we use them consciously instead of being addicted to them.
I'm talking about a lot more than that. I'm talking about applying solutions and why people aren't applying solutions. Why do we keep coming up with gadgets? Like when I brought my smart car in, okay, they gave me this fancy looking Mercedes as a trade-in, and I put pressure on them, and I had it for days. I said, I don't want to come get a call from you guys unless you have answers about this. What's going on with this smart car? And their answers were pretty much, your smart car behaves the same way as all of our new smart cars. So it's a way to say innovation isn't always better. Now this other Mercedes that people thought was like 60,000-70,000 Canadian was really a lot less than that, and really not better than the smart car I had. And here's some silly things about it. How the signal light was on the mirrors, the side mirrors, but in a way to blind the driver at night, causing so much glare. Now we already know that glare is not good driving at night. So why would this newer car be designed that stupid? So it's not technology, it's how people use it and how they program it and what they use it for. Another thing is that system, there's so many driver assist things that actually make it more dangerous for drivers, not just because they start to pay less attention because their intellectual laziness easily convinces themselves that it's okay to, because there's all these drive assists. And they, this Mercedes car, that there's a sound when a car is about to pass you, or a light coming on, and it actually comes on too late. The car already passed you. And it just gets the attention in the wrong place at the wrong time. It's idiotic. And one lady one time, she's backing up on Vancouver Island with her vehicle, and she's backing up over a crosswalk of this place where kids could have come out of this big function that they had in the building. And I said, ma'am, you know, it's illegal to back up over a crosswalk. And I told her this because she's looking at me the whole time. I'm on my motorcycle looking at her, and I am wearing reflective clothing, right? And you don't need a loud muffler, you need reflective clothing. And so unless people drive with their eyes closed, then you need a loud muffler on your motorcycle. So anyways, she's looking at me the whole time. She's backing up over this crosswalk. And I said, lady, I said, it's illegal. And then she said, I can't remember what she said, but, you know, I'm thinking, no, her response was, because there was another lady in the car with her, and I'm not criticizing women drivers any more than men drivers or teenage drivers, is she said, there's 6 cameras looking around here, as if there was like 6 screens that was going to tell her if there was a kid. But her eyes are on me, so how are these screens supposed to tell her that she's about to back up and hit a kid? So people have the silliest reasons to think they're qualified more than monkeys to drive cars, and it's because of technology. So how would you make it better? Well, first, train people not to need freaking cameras all over their car. Train them to do human observations that we used to do when we were hunter-gatherers, for example. Why now is it okay to just look in one place and barely understand and zone out when you drive? So what do you mean technology blending? Like, it's not like technology is an alien species that came to Earth and we're trying to be symbiotic with it. This is like not two friends going to connect. This is us creating things just for marketing and economic purpose. And it's just more carbon footprints, more cement on the ground.
So is the problem that we don't have any more inspiring purpose?
Well, here I'm in countries where they have these elevators for cars. They have these ways to turn them and get a car. They're using not a lot of space, and a lot of cars are small to go. People can have 2 parking spots. In Japan, someplace I've seen where one car is under the ground and one is on the ground level. And so it takes up less space. But why does somebody need 2 cars if they're like just a couple or something like that? And there's good public transit in that city. And then there's like parking lots at levels. Now, I'm thinking how crazy it is to have huge empty parking lots that I see that are fenced in. You can't even help somebody practice their bicycle skills in there. And it has to be like this. They're not going to replant trees. And then, but to imagine that there's cement over the ground when solutions are not to build higher parking lots, it's to stop doing cars, even if they're electric, and start planting more trees to absorb things back out instead of creating technology that is just, again, the monetary paradigm sickness to just do more technology that's going to really be more part of the problem in long-term historical evidence that we're going to gather about it, because it's just going to be denial that we're the problem.
Okay, but let's try to look at this clearly. Money can't be the problem because money is just an abstraction. It can mean anything. It's like a number, right? So
but money is a problem because most people believe in it, and most people want to participate in it, and most people judge each other by it, and most people want to gain power over others because of it. It's still the same as before. It's just the one with the bigger club to hit somebody over the head is going to be the one with all the women. It's the same thing. It's just wearing different clothes,
Yeah, so, I mean, it's used to distribute resources all over the place, right? But what I wanted to get to is it seems that this has to do with values, because it's what we value money for. People pay money for products, things, and services, experiences, but it's the value.
We're getting less and less skilled. Like, you want people to learn permaculture, but do you know that people are more and more resistant to learning, and that teachers around the world that have been teaching the same thing for years have to dumb down their tests and get complaints from students and parents and even their bosses that the students are getting the same amount of homework that they used to 10 years ago?
I don't know. I've heard that. I've heard
they don't want to get smarter. and they
heard
don't want
that.
to learn to communicate in their own language properly. If there's one thing you could say I've done around the world the last few years, is I've tested the Homo communio to see if it would make a difference if they made a choice on a common language, and not Esperanto or Esperanto. I never learned that one, but let's say I used to write that, well, English is already pretty widespread, so let's all agree English is the one. Well, if people agree to this, but they do a crappy job learning English, and again, people wear clothes. I'm walking on the beach, this Asian woman had her 2 daughters, and there was something French written on here. And I repeat the French with a funny expression. And they don't know what I'm talking about. I think the girls figured out before the mom that I was talking about what the shirt said, but nobody knows. And I've seen so many Asian people with one English word, and I ask what it means, that they don't know. Now, this is promoting their ignorance, and everybody is going to be on, if I want to talk about this, on the side of the ignorant advocate, right? So why are we not talking about this? Why are we saying, oh, no, it's just our values? Well, our values is what we do, is not what we say is my Christian values or whatever, when I see people contradict themselves and be incongruent about it.
Well, here's the problem.
Wear a cross and think you're a good...
But look, Martin, here's the issue. You're saying that people are learning less than before. And I've heard many who say the others, that people are learning more, they're doing better at tests. I hear both of these, and I hear this endless supply of ideas about whether things are going in the right direction or whether it's going in the wrong direction. And I want to get back to the point you asked earlier, because why do I not describe it as half full or half empty? Because I don't see this going anywhere. If we think everything is going the right way,
well, you're right.
We don't have to do anything. If we think everything's going to hell, we don't have to do anything. You see?
But maybe it's time that you reframe that, Glenn, because your way is still nothing's going anywhere. So I think it's tough love time, like Greta. That's what I think.
No, my way isn't that. I'm asking, what future do we want? That's what I'm asking, because I hear in the media everybody's talking about everything that's wrong, all the dangers, all the things that have been done wrong. This is all over the place. But where are the stories about what's possible for humanity? Where are the stories of what a harmonious society looks like?
Okay, so then we're back to writing science fiction novels.
Yes,
but I'm talking about...
where are those fiction novels? Where's that science fiction story?
Well, they were there 100 years ago. Okay, so there was a lot of really old, good science fiction stories, and nobody listened to them.
That's 100 years ago. I'm talking about now. I want to see where's the story about the futures where humanity gets together, where we live in love, in respect, in dignity, in harmony with nature, and where we build on each other's strengths and see our greatness instead of putting everybody down and putting ourselves down. Because that's the problem, Martin. This negativity doesn't help. It's been tried and it's failed.
Well, I was at where you were a long time ago. But Glenn, I'm glad you're getting back to the psychological issues. It's not about technology anymore.
Yes.
And if it is about technology and we start to say, oh, let's, merge our minds with
technology.
Why are we still not admitting our intellectual laziness? It's not easy to become human. That's the hardest thing to do. It's harder than building an entire house by one person, for one person to become human.
Technology is actually a subcategory of psychology. It's just like you say, it's psychology. It determines everything. The AI, it's about it.
So why were people often with more thinking tools, human thinking tools, before there was so much technology?
Well, I mean, we have thinking tools that have developed over long periods of time. So generations and generations have passed on tools and behaviors. So obviously that's a big issue, But when I'm looking at it now, I'm going into Twitter and I'm following many politically um, engaged public figures.
Okay, well, what if I challenged you, Glenn? Because you get a lot of news on the media, and I'm pretty sure, like most people, you think this is objective news.
No, I
And
don't think it's subjective news. I think it's totally irrelevant. That's the point I'm getting to,
okay,
Martin.
then this is
What
going
I'm
to help
reading
me.
on Twitter is irrelevant. They're not even talking about politics. They're not talking about the future. They're not talking about anything at all. They're complaining about other people who did something wrong earlier, or other people who are stupid now and they have stupid ideas, and the conversation isn't moving anywhere.
Okay,
It's
it's nice.
going
It's nice to see.
nowhere. It's going
It's nice to.
nowhere.
It's nice to see this side of you. Now,
I'm
when
not
you
even.
hit that, when you hit that wall of frustration, you don't go back to let's see all things in a swallowable something that is swallowable as a worldview. So it's hard. The emotions where you are, they're hard, but they're appropriate. So here's the challenge I would give you to apply to your life. If you didn't get a chance to do this, next talk you can follow up on how you applied it to your life. You spend a lot of time, and you might think there's more information to gather, but I think you have enough information that you don't need to spend that much time on the news. And if something really big happens on the news, I'm pretty sure somebody you're interacting with will make you aware of it, and Twitter and Facebook and all this.
Very true.
So I would like to challenge you to monitor the time you spend on a computer or whatever other device that you use to gather this really counterproductive information for your brain, and reduce those hours. I had challenged you before to invite me so that we can give the Humanix program and develop it, because you say, let's not put something out there that's not good enough yet. Well, it's something that will always get better with time. The more we do it, we should have started it a long time ago. So there's no making it perfect and then suddenly the whole world takes it up miraculously because these aliens show up and tell us to do that, or gods come back from all the different religions. No, let's start doing it now. I've challenged you to bring me there, and all you have to do is make sure that I have a roof over my head and a bed and some food. And you don't have to pay me, and you have the video recording devices that we can actually get volunteers to participate in this program with us and record it and grow together. And that's what it's about. You want to give hope to people. You want to film a video of people in a group that swallow their pride and say, yeah, I think we have been part of the problem, and here's what I want to do. And when I fail, I will apologize and I'll try harder. And this is what the videos will show. They'll be showing humans evolving from day to day, from week to week, in a way that is manageable because they're doing it together in a group of 8 or 10 people. And that's what we used to be capable of, and that's what we're not capable of now. And that's the first thing to do. And then miraculously, guess what? Everything else will indirectly get solved, because we'll all be connected as one. And I'm not just talking about as a species, but and part of my program is also acknowledging we're part of the greater whole of nature. So I'm challenging you, spend less time, and maybe connect more with your girlfriend so that she knows if you're recording that she's not going to keep walking around. She's distracting me as much as she's distracting you.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's totally true, and I'm working on that. I mean, I don't spend much time reading the news, but every now and then I go on the social media stream. But it's not just the mainstream news, it's also on normal social media. The main problem I see, listen here, please, don't miss this point. The main problem I see is that people are not speaking about what really matters. We are not speaking about what world we actually want to have. Nobody's speaking about it. Have you noticed?
We spoke about it.
We spoke about it a little bit. Who's speaking about it? Where's the big conversation about the world that we want to have, the beautiful world? Where's that? Where's the science fiction series where you have the beautiful futures on Netflix? If you know about it, tell me about it. I want to see it. I want to watch it with my girlfriend. I want to sit here and watch the science fiction series about the beautiful futures of mankind get some ideas, and
It
begin
does.
working on it.
It does unite couples and families to be sitting together with something that leaves them with a sense of hope and also a sense of satisfaction that a greater future is waiting for them. But of course, you got to create it. You can't just be sitting and watching the show. So let's say I'm asking you right now, how many hours would you say per week you might spend on social media or electronic devices, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, whatever, or gathering news, whatever it is? How many hours? And I'm going to think about it and answer as well after.
Do you mean how many hours it's been?
You know what? I think for me, it might actually be between 10 and 15 hours a week. And I often know I'm wasting my time because I know what propaganda on MSN looks like, and and what I do is I justify that I've spent time on it by taking a screenshot of it and showing it later when I make a point, an example of this is propaganda. This is nonsense that is the same as 10 years ago. We're not growing. And this is how I justified that I wasted all that time on a computer instead of still trying to, make social connections or materialize or create the world that I'm trying to create outside of a room, So
Yeah.
I would say I'm between 10 and 15, and it's hard to say because there's some days where, and it's not weather related, I think it's more like feeling related for me, that I'll be, trying to prove to people I exist by loading videos on my Facebook that nobody really watches. I have two Facebook. The one with my family that you're on is I'll make an effort to film a song I recorded for somebody. I'm not even going to get as much views as the number of FFFs, I call them, fake Facebook friends. And then on another Facebook that I have for Asia here to demonstrate in videos some of the skill sets and places I've worked, is I brought it back down to 5 friends again, and I have 18 followers, and I don't know who these followers are. It's ridiculous watching these patterns, and I don't know who watches what. And so I know I'm wasting my time. I say, why am I still posting things that mean a lot to me that I want to talk about, and nobody that claims to love me actually participates in a conversation about this? Why am I still? And of course, the answer is I'm a social creature who feels incredible solitude and a sense of aloneness and disconnection, and is still trying to find a purpose that is achievable to keep me alive, because I've not wanted to be alive for years now, because I think the suffering outweighs, the good times. And I know that I'm valuable in my skill set and understanding of the world, that I could be very productive. But the entire world is not wanting me to be productive, because it means that I would bring reality right straight to their face. And it's not a place they're ready to go. So still, what can I do? Well, I'm going to promise to you that this project that I want to do, that is just post 1 blog per day on my Facebook, starting a month before my birthday and finishing on my birthday, is going to be, and you know what? I'm posting this video on the day of my birthday, this conversation right here, and that'll be the end where I get off Facebook. Now, it won't be inactivated, because at least one family member, this is the only way they could reach me, because I don't have a cell phone. So for emergencies, but I won't be wasting my time on there anymore. It'll be mostly for conversations. And if anybody wants to use Messenger, they have to make an appointment with me a week in advance or something, because I won't be wasting my time logging on Facebook or Messenger all the time, or even Skype or things like that. So my promise is I'm going to start reducing it starting today. And it's an addiction to try to fill a need that the Homo communia can't give me, because they don't have the thinking tools to make social connections anymore that are rewarding to me. So I'm still trying with these things. And but the thing is if I keep trying and it's not going to get better, then I'm not spending time on other solutions to fulfill my needs. And when my needs are met, and when I'm role modeling the right things, then it'll resonate to the rest of the world. So my promise, again, and I'm hoping you'll do the same, is to start weeding off. And that doesn't mean that I won't have a bigger impact on the world because nobody's really watching my videos. But what I can do is I'll have more time when I'm outside and interact with somebody's dog, having a conversation with them. If I see they need help to lift something, or if somebody's gardening, and I'll just go and say, can I do this with you? They'll not know me until, what the hell, this is weird. Does he want money? Who's this foreigner? And it's just me wanting to be human with another human, doing a human activity. And maybe they'll never understand who I was, but for me, it will have been a rewarding day. I would have, had my hand in the dirt, and I would have made somebody happy, or at least made somebody think. This was a weird experience, and it was interesting, and this guy was nice, and he was good at learning with his eyes, even though we didn't speak the same language. Like, somebody cleaned the air conditioning here in the roof, but I observed how they did it. So when all the pieces were gone, I was giving them back to the guy in the order that they have to be put in. It's just because I'm paying attention. I care about what he's doing. I care about learning. This is me being human.
Yeah.
So I want to do more of this stuff and not wasting my time. So this is my promise to you. So I fulfilled this promise.
I'll sign on to that one.
You're signing on?
Yeah, and I've already, to some
Who else is signing on? They're going to say, hey, the Facebook group is going to shut down. No, it's not going to shut down. We'll actually be applying instead of talking.
I don't want to shut it down, but
I'm not saying shut it down, but if people say, hey, where were you? We haven't seen you on Facebook for a while. I was applying solutions instead of just talking. That's the answer.
Exactly. So, it's not necessary to be on Facebook all the time or be on social media all the time, answer messages all the time.
And it's harmful.
It's very harmful.
And people don't know how harmful it is. And Facebook has died down, but other things replace it. And they're as harmful. So
one part of this future that we want to go towards seems to be, at least, that we can have an ability to be responsible about how we spend time with these machines, so that we don't get addicted to all kinds of, more or less useless things that we spend them on hours and hours and hours, and take a break and then come back and use them well. That seems to be what you're describing.
When you say, hey, I have to do things on the internet, but I've made a promise, then you won't be wasting time with inefficient things. You'll be going for the important messages you need to check, and you'll be improving your screening skills, and you'll even start to get mad with things that are posted. It'll be like, and when something pops up on Facebook, even if it's Facebook that makes it pop up, you can actually give a complaint. You can actually say, this is spam, report it, and Facebook will auto-correct this. But when people don't do it, they don't apply the technology meant to increase the quality of their experience by complaining. I complain.
Do you think that works? I don't think that works.
Well, there's a lot of people that don't know a lot of things about Facebook, and
people will say this is spam because they don't agree with it. It's the wrong opinion. It comes from.
Well, for example, if an ad shows up and you don't want this ad to show up, you could say, why is this ad here? There's a button, and then you complain about it, and then it should show up less. And if it doesn't, keep doing that, and then they'll freaking get upset that they have to read your messages, and they'll block your advertising so they don't pop up. I complain. I wrote a review about a hotel that I went to about a month ago, and an airline 3 months ago, and I did the complaint on Expedia, and I tried to resolve with Expedia, the airline, the hotel, and then I wrote a review. Now, Expedia, after about a week, says, oh, your review wasn't accepted. It has to be changed. And it's like, what the hell? I spoke honestly, and I've documented things. I don't say things that aren't true. I have documentation for it. And they want to review it. And then if I get into a philosophical debate with them, it'd be like, but you'll ruin it for everybody. Some people, they have a hard job. They look forward to their vacations, and you didn't pay that much anyways. Well, for me, that hardly has any money to go by, that I actually have to still have such low quality for the money that I did pay, it's more upsetting than somebody that's a millionaire that has one or tiny little things they noticed that wasn't great. And the standards of things go down. In every country of the world, I've seen the cleanliness of the highest or lowest based on my standard of cleaning something for that somebody's going to pay for staying in, is so low that nobody wants to talk about this. They unless they get sick or they fall off a cruise ship, people really think that they had a good trip, and it's getting worse and worse. Now, right now, I'm on a trip related to Travelocity. And I'm doing it out of necessity because of the tribe versus tribe, immigration nonsense that I have to comply to. And I have to fly one place and then fly back here. And this was the same distance in this triangle here. And why do I do this? I have no choice. I can't afford to fly direct. And to maximize their profits, the airline make me wait a long time and fly 2 different flights for this 1 hour flight. Now, this is insane. There's no, and once I did, when I was flying with Air Canada, I did the carbon payoff thing, and I lost a lot of thousands of points for this. But then I did research about how it's used. I felt robbed. So again, if I complain about here, and I actually vacuumed here myself, I insisted on borrowing the vacuum here so that I could do that. And if I stayed here a long time, there's a lot of things I'd want to clean. Now, people say, oh, no, you have the best rate. I know, but it's still upsetting that for a guy who has barely any money to have paid this much and to actually offer to clean, and then they will not even say thank you when you do it, and they should have done it. So it's insane, right? It's insane. How do you define the Homo communia, the species? It's a collection of societies that have all agreed to be money laundering societies. That's what it is. There's no human quality or human aspects to it anymore. It's all about money laundering, and people aren't supposed to complain.
Is that a curse? Didn't you just cast a curse on humanity? I'm challenging you here.
Are you talking about magical stuff here?
Yes, this is magic. We're creating new realities through our words. And if you say that humanity has lost its humanity, that's effectively to put a curse on humanity. I'm just saying it.
Are you saying if I say bad things, I somehow have magical powers to make them come true when they weren't true before?
Maybe. I don't know. To some extent.
You're scaring me. I wonder what diagnosis people would give you. They give me a Asperger and they give me narcissism. And this is not professionals, because professionals don't even know enough about the mind.
I guess the point I'm getting to is that if we frame humanity as being this way or that way, that has self-fulfilling effect. If I expect someone to be a jerk, it's a pretty big chance they're going to be a jerk. And if I expect that person
but if you've known that person for a long time and they act like a jerk 9 times out of 10, it's okay for you to think that it's likely they will continue to be a jerk. I'm not saying they will always be a jerk. But first, let's admit humanity are jerks.
No.
Okay? There's plenty of science fiction movies where we're the bad guys. And nobody talks about it. I've done a blog about this. Why do people talk about the movie, but nobody says, hey, did you notice we're the bad guys? The aliens are the good guys? Why are we not saying, holy shit, this is really who we are?
Well, it seems to be a kind of depression, I think, that's going on now. There's a
depression among the Homo communia that makes them not see they're the bad guys?
No, a depression among humans who make them think of themselves in a very negative way and think of others. And it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, which makes us focus on the worst and bring out the worst in others continuously in a cycle that re-perpetuates itself. That's,
Okay, so what's your solution to that? When people,
my solution to that is we have to find a new perspective on what a human being is. And we got to put this bullshit away.
okay, well, let's say you have a real interaction tomorrow with a person and they act like a jerk and it is not good to you and your girlfriend. So will you say, hey, I want to meet you in the future when you have come up with a better way to interact with me and my girlfriend? Like what, like, aren't you going to call him on the bullshit, which is accountability, and say that's not okay?
I don't think so. Probably I would just go away. But the reality is that I don't expect people to be jerks, and they seldom are.
Well, because humanity doesn't
Usually,
admit that they're jerks, our fantasies are that we're this close to finding a new planet to be on, and we're not admitting we're screwing up this one, and we could just stop doing that. We don't need to fix it. We need to stop breaking it as a majority.
yeah, isn't it though fundamentally wrong to say that we are this or are that? It seems that it's undecided. We can become many things. Every person I know are jerks. They're very nice people. They're boring people. They're exciting people. They're full of contradictions. Every person I know is full of contradictions.
I'm not sure why we're having our conversations anymore, Glenn, because I think we're supposed to talk about solutions, what they look like, apply them.
Here's the solution. Here's the solution. A new way of thinking about what a human being is. If we can't have that, we're not getting anywhere. We've already agreed it's about psychology. And I'm pointing out the fact that if we expect the worst from ourselves and from others, that's what we're probably going to get. If we choose to view ourselves with contempt, it's probably the way it's going to continue. And I don't see that as a viable path. We need a different mentality. We need a mentality that recognizes the greatness of humans. Every human I know is great. I've never met a single person who doesn't have that greatness. You have that greatness. It shines through in all kinds of ways. And
I'm not sure you believe that, because I talk about the ugly stuff. I'm not sure.
Yes, you do, but that's a habit. That's a pattern of behavior.
Okay, let me talk about this subject that you're talking about now. This is the same subject, because you believe in the self-fulfilling prophecy. But even people that, you know, just believe good things are about to happen, or they, you know, they're mostly the norm right now, is they're not winning because they're not the majority. But even then, there's a limit to the concept of the secret or the power of intention. You know, it changes probabilities of things, but it doesn't instantaneously create things. So here's a scenario. If you watch the Superman movie, you know, the new character, I believe, the newer Superman, I think.
I haven't seen that.
They had a society that was pretty stable until their planet gave out on them. Now, how your worldview would work is, your worldview is to change something that is stagnating. But we're not stagnating. We're actually like racing to our deaths here. So for me, your approach is good in Superman's world before Krypton blew up. Because it's like, hey, you know, let's start maybe thinking maybe that maybe this person's right, and maybe our planet could blow up, and let's, you know, let's stop just stagnating because it's been so great for so long, and think. And hardly anybody escaped from the planet when it blew up. So that's kind of, you know, you're trying to just slightly shift a worldview, and I'm trying to say, what the hell? Why is everybody racing to their death? That's what I'm talking.
Are you saying this is a slight shift? Okay, let me spell it out.
Or what?
The worldview I have of what a human being is is that we are self-recreating worlds of life. We are entire universes of life. We have a history that's billions of years old. We have unbelievable intelligence, unbelievable abilities,
Okay, so
and
it sounds like a religion.
collectively,
You're talking about a religion that will keep stagnating and create denial. There's no taking charge of evolution or of our own destinies, because we've been criticized by some comments about talking too much about directing our own social evolution. But let's just look at the other way, is to manage our destiny as a species, and
yeah,
or even as a country,
yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
because countries can't even achieve it, much less like an entire.
Country is an abstraction. Country is an abstraction. It has to begin on a psychological level. So how do we do that? How do we
Well,
take responsibility for who we are? For
okay,
who
well,
we
here's
want
one
to
thing about
become?
countries. Why am I the only one in the world where if somebody says where you're from, I'll say I'm born there, but I'm from Earth? Why am I one out of a billion who will say this and who will stand by this, and not insist I'm from this country or that country, or I'm this ethnicity or this cultural trend or not? And I'll
You
say
mean
I'm just like,
global identity?
stop separating us, and I'll argue this even with like an immigration officer who will get on my nerves if he brings it up, right? So why am I the only one doing this, where I'm breaking down by myself ways of thinking that don't work, that have been part of the problem? So why are not more people doing this, and they just say, oh, we only need this kind of world? Well, it's your actions, and your actions are not creating this kind of world, and there's hardly anybody that is. So let's start kind of admitting this, and then we'll start kind of laying down a foundation of working together if we agree to this together.
Well, you kind of mean that a global identity, right? In the man from Earth, you see yourself as an Earthling. Several people have a global identity, and why aren't
Would
they?
you be comfortable going to an Asian country and walking anywhere in any neighborhood and be the only person there who doesn't speak the language and feel like you deserve to be there as much as any of them, and that you would not take crap, and you look at them like it's okay that they're there, and even though you notice they think it's weird that you're there, is you don't feel that. You feel like I have the right to be here as much as you. Is that the argument that you would love to get into? So are you like this? Or would you be able to do this?
Yeah, just let people be as they are, and they
No,
don't
but would you
know.
be able to, let's say you book a trip with your girlfriend to go to, let's say, Vietnam, okay? But you don't go to the tourist attractions. You go walk in a poor rice village where nobody knows you. Nobody's going to say, oh, that's my friend. It's just you and your girlfriend walking there, and you're not part of a bus tour, and you
Hmm.
don't speak the language. And you could walk and interact with birds or dogs that come to you or whatever, or friendly kids, and feel like you deserve to be there because you're a good person who's not going to do anything harmful to them or the environment as much as they do deserve to be there. Can you do that?
Yeah, maybe I should. Maybe I should.
Give it a
Try.
try.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
hope you have good
I mean,
thinking
I
tools and good
definitely would.
conflict resolution skills, and you're good with your nonverbal communication.
I
And
definitely would like to travel more of that kind. But I really hope we can get back to this main point because I think it's
am I
crucial.
traveling? People think I'm traveling. I'm not traveling.
Traveler,
Looking for
globetrotter.
humans. I'm walking the planet I come from.
Yeah.
And I'm just acknowledging barriers when I have to, but I will be in an argument about it. And luckily, I come from a country that has easy access with this passport, but I think it's nonsense. And I'll put it on the internet and I'll tell any government employee or anybody I meet that it's nonsense. But to avoid the nonsense, to go here and there and look for humans and do research and collect data, I'll play a part of this passport. But
Yeah.
the thing is I will say it's nonsense. And if somebody asks me, I'll reframe their words. I say, I'm not from there. I was just born there. And that's like an accident. Okay, and I did the best I could to get out of it. I'm still looking for humans, and I've been
Yeah,
unsuccessful, except for Hamper Sandy.
yeah.
I think
Well,
we've done our hour and a half almost. We never got into what I would do to help Canada with a project that is related to public transit and trains based on what I've observed in various Asian countries doing my research, and also how it would help their divide as a culture on the oil issue, and also on bringing tourism, protecting the Arctic North sovereignty that they you believe they have in their mental illness of owning land, and also tourism would be a great new way to attract and also to establish immigration jobs that are not the status quo of what already doesn't work. It'd be jobs for creating small packs of micro cities and villages, very small communities, instead of big cities that grow and keep getting more and more toxic. And it'd be, if there's mining, it would be mining to just do this system that is a more environmentally friendly way to get out of oil, to expand the country, and to create jobs even for the immigrants that have nowhere else to be in the world. And for people that say, hey, if we get out of oil, we'll have no jobs. No, you will. You'll just help recreate your country in a way to unite it and make it a role model to the rest of the world.
yeah,
Now, if there was really any Green Party representatives in Canada, and I don't believe there is, and I challenge them again to public debates on this, on what green would look like, is they would back up something like this. They would say, that's great. It solves so many different problems at the same time. And all these different little communities that would be built to expand, get people out of the unhealthy cities, and the new people coming in, and jobs, and people moving away from home instead of staying in the same cities and stagnating and repeating their parents' unhealthy lives that they've lived, is they'd be all these different, totally unique way to try new cities that focus on different things and different styles and different colors and different ways of seeing their function as micro societies. That's what I'd love to work on, but I don't think.
yeah, yeah. It's almost like city states in a sense, or thriving cities. I
Well,
do believe there are many such cities. There are
I don't
many.
want to say city states, because if you make a world that is
Yeah,
like this, it's a great way to break down barriers. I mean, you can get anywhere with trains and avoid planes more and more, and you can actually just travel the world and just meet interesting people and stay here a little bit longer, and then move on and stay here a little bit longer. And if you want to use technology efficiently, like the internet, then there'd be a way to do criminal record checks that are all around the world with one agency, and then that's a trustworthy person. They have these skills, they have the references to back it up, and they even can do these tests to demonstrate they have these teaching skills or human skills. Because most teaching cultures around the world, unless somebody gets a really big complaint or many complaints that can't be hidden anymore, is there's no assessing these teachers or professors. They're not getting any better, they're getting worse. And they're all protecting each other in the sense of their eliteness and their intellectual laziness. And there's no quality of human education anymore. So there's ways to be really democratic, even at a global scale. And there's ways to break down barriers. And I was hoping that Canada would acknowledge that that I'm not an idiot and I don't have narcissism, or and by the way, these are not diagnostics that I've had on paper, or Asperger's. It's just people that just don't like to feel judged by me, even though I didn't say anything that's judgmental
well,
sometimes, or that don't like my level of honesty, and they, oh, he
well,
must have.
that's a typical issue, isn't it? That's yeah. Sometimes this you got one person who sees something and they point it out and they want to be helpful, but the other experience it as judgment. And this social dynamic is a part of the issue. I think it makes it difficult because it makes it difficult to speak clearly about problems and solutions because we get stuck in these roles where we feel like we need to defend. And so then we're back to psychology again. And I think that what you touched upon earlier was about role modeling, and just such a simple thing as how you talk to people you meet, and just these very, very small situations maybe they are very impactful. I think there's good reason to believe that it has huge consequences, just these very small daily interactions. And this is also why I wanted to challenge you about how you think about these communities, and that it's a danger if we focus on what's wrong, that it can become like a curse, that we can overlook what is being done right and what people are doing quite well. Because the fact is, we do a lot of things quite well. We do things, many things. The human community does many things now better than before.
You are incredibly scared of criticism, and especially of criticism that might be coming onto you. And I think I haven't.
I'm not. I'm not scared of criticism. I just think criticism doesn't work. It's been tested, and
Yeah, but do you know that criticism, there's a science to it, and you could do it well, and you could do it in a way that improves things very quickly. But for that, again, people have to swallow their pride. They have to look at themselves.
That's true.
Now, one type of mental illness that is extremely underdiagnosed is the anxieties and paranoia relationship that people have, that is going to get worse and worse and worse. And people won't be able to distinguish between a reality or what they feared or they were paranoid about that gave them anxiety, because reality and anxiety feels a certain way, and their paranoid fears that aren't true and anxiety feels a certain way, and it'll just be really confusing what is true or not true anymore. Now, the best way to test whether something is true or not when you have paranoia is to check it out, to ask about it, to find out. But for that, people have to have skills, which they don't. So again, this is a sociokinetic feedback.
And what if everybody becomes paranoid?
HSD spread even more. Pardon?
Yeah, and what if everybody becomes paranoid, and then the people you ask will give the same?
Well, you just need one guy to be paranoid who has access to a button, and the whole world changes forever. And history will be written a certain way for the next hundreds and thousands of years. So, because when one person presses a button through mental illness, that, you know, people like me wouldn't have access to the button, but people like them would have access to the button because of unhealthy structures of society. Now, if this happens, of course, more and more people will continue to be pressing buttons, and then, you know, the scenarios from the movies will come true. Now, it won't be because there wasn't enough positive movies. It's because we didn't address what was wrong up here. We were in denial about it still too long.
Yeah. Well, the positive movies is also an expression of the fact that the culture at the moment does have a very dystopian view of the future, is very scared of the future, and have a low self-esteem. I mean, people have a low self-esteem. It's my general impression. And
you know why? Is people know that things are about to break, right? The house of cards is about to break down, and people have no skills to prepare for it and know what to do or what to expect. People have not been managing their own lives or societies or cultures, and they've been blaming politicians that are not problem solvers, they're bankers. So again, the fears and paranoia are justified. People are not preparing for the right things. People are preparing for zombie movies, to shoot whoever comes to grab their last can of beans. So, and then get infected by it. So, you know, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous that people are so disconnected from reality of taking charge of their own destinies. And what they fear is really their power of choice, their power of becoming managers of their lives. So again,
I think that's
the future is not scary. We can create the future. And why we're scared of it? We don't have creating our future skills.
Exactly. Well, that's my point too. That's what's missing, and that's what I'm working on, and that's what I'm trying to use conversations to work on as well. But
did I see my Humanix program outline?
No, well, you sent a little bit, but that could be a really awesome thing to go into.
When I was on Vancouver Island, one of the last parts of the program was how to save Vancouver Island, a blueprint. And of course, a blueprint is where we're at now. This is what we need to do. And of course, new programs after that, new cohorts of these teachings would have to adapt as things change.
Yeah,
But all of them would have to develop human thinking skills and leadership skills and problem solving skills and know how to follow the evolution of cultures. So
that seems to be what's the crux of the issue then, because all the way we've gone through this comes back again and again about the thinking skills, the psychology, the general um, the general mental state of people, including this how they perceive reality. Like you say, that in a certain state, you you perceive reality through your projections uh, and the entire state that one is in.
well, whether people are right or wrong about how much this self-fulfilling prophecy is, let's still apply solutions to positive futures. Whether the power of self-fulfilling prophecy is really to blame for the outcomes of enrolling history. I think it's not as strong as other phenomenon that affect the evolution of cultures, but let's kind of not waste time with that debate, and let's just be proactive to things that science tells us make sense, right? And let's stop arguing about who has a better view of the world, right, for the future or what it is right now. I mean, most people agree to things, but they don't apply them. So let's just
Yes,
start doing them.
that's an interesting observation too. That most people actually agree on most things they want.
Well,
And
have you ever been in a conversation where you ask people, well, why aren't you doing it? And then they'll give all their silly excuses.
yeah,
And then do you just walk away?
so the issue, I'm not even wondering, is really the core of the issue this gap between theory and reality, in the sense that we have ideals we want to live by, but for some reason we just
Hey,
can't quite get there.
Glenn, that's a great way to start the next conversation. I think that's a slightly different way to, again, address what's making us not develop the thinking tools, the gap between theory and practicality or practice, putting into practice.
Yeah, with theory practice,
That
I
should be
think
the next.
that,
Glenn, we're over like our 90 minutes.
yeah, I think we found a good one. That's a very good topic to go into next time, because I
What's
think
a good
that's the crux of the issue here. Yeah.
What's a good happy movie you could watch with your girlfriend right now? Trying to think of one that has a decent. Of course, happy sometimes is overcoming adversity or doing the right thing under challenging situation. For me, it's not just like I've seen these movies where nothing really happens. Like you're waiting for a car accident or something like that. Nothing freaking happens. And even though there's a beautiful ending, it's not even rewarding. It's like, what the hell? This has been like a non-reality movie. It's really fiction, because like there should have been like one or two things in the years of these characters interacting with each other, but no, there wasn't. It's like, what the hell? Who wrote this? Somebody who's scared of life. So there are movies that make me feel good, but a lot of them for me is like, oh, the character is in a tough situation. I know what the right thing to do is. It would be nice to see the character do it. And when they do it, holy crap, it feels good. And
Yeah.
somehow in these movies, I think even the character feels good, even if they're going to jail or whatever, is doing the right thing really feels good. And it's getting to that point of doing the right thing, is getting out of your comfort zone, is swallowing your pride, is admitting you will lose things based on your actions. And that's normal because you expect that of others as well. And that's what you have to do and role model for, even if you don't have kids, just to the rest of the world. And that's how your life will have been a success, with this big moment when you were faced with these two choices. And even though you did something really wrong and now you have to pay the consequences, that last choice is amazing for you as a role model. Because if somebody observed how you got to these choices and they could understand how humans' lives might evolve this way, and now you're faced with this ultimate, holy crap, that's a tough one there, and you do the right thing, that is great role modeling. Even though you might hate that character for how many people died or suffered from their actions, to do that at that time is what a real hero is. It's not necessarily somebody who collects a paycheck to more or less put themselves at risk when that's their job, you know, but somebody who had a particular life and now is faced with, holy crap, in a very public way, oh crap, I have to do the right thing now. I have to say I've been wrong, or I have to change the way I see things, or I've been sending the wrong message to the world. Like if Trump ever, you know, frickin' has becomes a born again Christian or whatever. And I don't want to say good people are associated necessarily with Christians, because for me, there's no correlation more than any.
Good dose of the Bible, yeah.
But if Trump ever says I was wrong, I will now start applying, and even because my brain is programmed so differently now, I will have advisors to keep me on course. I will now start applying think globally, act locally. Now, if this ever happened, he would become better than Jesus, because he would be in a position to have such a positive impact on the world for doing this 180 switch. That really, like, make him a saint before he dies. Really, this would be such a challenging thing for a human in his situation to do. To do this is you got to give him a Nobel Prize, you make him a saint.
Yeah.
You know, give him how many virgins you want when he dies. Whatever you want to believe is this guy deserves a lot of rewards, because that is one hell of a 180, and that's what we need to see from everybody.
Yeah, and I think that's a great way to wrap this up.
All the virgins when you die, or are you talking about planet Krypton?
Yeah. Well, I think it had something to do with coming to the point of being able to do the right thing, and that does seem to be the challenge.
But let's not wait for a big fork in the road, because the forks in the road are always there every day. There's thousands.
There's always a fork.
And the hard ones, you know, if you're waiting for them, you might be surprised you might not take the right path. So let's do more smaller ones every day. You know, let's go for more walks, use our car less. You know, I've had cars where, you know, I had a 1.6 and I went down to 1.2 liter engine, and people, how do you, well, first of all, if you know how to drive properly, even a motorcycle, if you know how to use the RPM properly and you put the right kind of gas in it, you don't need, you know, 1,000 or 2,000 cc's to go up a mountain and pass another vehicle. So again, it's like common sense, but I've been going down and eventually no more cars. Now I want to get a motorcycle again in the future, and some of them are electric or might be also becoming more hybrid motorcycles. But again, if somebody goes, especially when they live in a temperate climate like Vancouver Island, and there's obviously good clothes has been invented already, the technology is there, and you get a motorcycle and you learn to ride it properly and you get away from cars, that's a big difference. There's a big difference between a hulking vehicle with 4 doors and 5 seats that aren't being used most of the time, and just make friends with neighbors that if you want to go to Badminton with them and you're too tired to ride your bike, could be dangerous, then that's your friend to ride in his car with. You know, there's so many solutions that can be applied. You just have to care to be part of the solution and admit first that you were part of the problem. Yeah,
and if we can do our part, then...
And we're all part of the problem. Yeah. There's all ways that we're harming with our life choices.
So if we can begin with our own choices.
Some are easier and harder to do than others when it comes to change. But there is some every day. So every day we're faced with looking at each other in the mirror, and we don't need to cross the wall or anybody else to give us ethics and morals. It's been evolved in us. The altruism, the collaboration has been evolved in us. And if somebody goes and gets their ethics or morals somewhere else, they're really devolving themselves. It's already there.
Yeah, it's already here. It's already in us, and that's the one thing we can influence, right? We can begin with ourselves, and I'm joining you for that challenge you had with taking some
Online presence, yeah. And I'm challenging you not to
Yeah.
have a shirt next time, but to have maybe a Superman outfit.
Superman outfit. Yeah. I was a big
Okay,
fan.
not you. Have your girlfriend have the Supergirl outfit when she walks around in the back then.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Well, on that note, I think we'll wrap this one up. And yeah, full of contents as usual. And I think we got a great topic for next time.
And by the way, save me a copy of this recording. I do not believe my computer will have successfully kept a copy of it. And this one's important for me because it's going on my birthday on my Facebook. It'll be my final bye-bye to really disconnect a lot more off of social presence.
Okay. Yeah. Well, on that note, we will end the recording in 3, 2, 1.
Oh, wait. The planet's not going to explode at 0, is it?
No, we'll hope
Okay,
it.
a beautiful ending at 0. 3, 2. Hey, I love you, man. Thanks for the talk today.
Yeah.
Happy early birthday to Martin. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Bye-bye.